Hello there, Internet. Welcome to That's a One Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, and I'm joined by occasional co-host Aaron Humphreys.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah,
Yeah.
occasional's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since I've been on here. Usually I'm on the one tomorrow night.
All right, yeah, it's been a minute. But yes, we are the West Coast, Best Coast crew of Silverline, and today we're going to be talking about the holiday season media rush, why everything seems to come out in the following month.
It's funny. I always assume. It seems like most of the stuff comes out in the first part of November into October. Or maybe comic books are different. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of stuff now has started coming. It's been pushed out even further.
Yeah. Well, especially in video games, it used to
Oh, yeah.
be October, November was the big. Now it's like there's so many games I want in February and January. They skip the holiday season. It's like a huge drop of like. I don't know if it's leftovers or whatever, but there's a lot of stuff that used to come out the first part of the year. That was usually never it. It was usually that was a drought season.
Yeah.
But in the games.
Yeah, and there's definitely some stuff that goes into that. So we'll get into a second here. I think that's one show on Tuesday. And we had something to promote. I thought maybe I lied. Okay, so we'll go straight into it.
Were we supposed to promote something?
I don't know. I thought something to come up, but I guess not. All right. Anyway, so yes. So now the cycles are definitely different, and have spread out even more. But notice that there's these weird. There is definitely like a cycle to media releases, but but now you like with holiday seasons, you might see your big Star Wars or Marvel movie, Call of Duty, and Marvel or DC. If they're running a second event of the year, it'll usually come out about now. But if they're not doing just the normal one event during the summer.
Yeah, this year I was looking at usually one or two. I've been talking to people like the only holiday season release is Avatar. And I think I just get a feeling that Cameron makes so much money on his films that a lot of the studios are like, let him have December. We don't care.
No.
Because I just can't compete against him sometimes.
Yeah. And it's just because he always had like these big titles, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 just came out, which I've been playing a crap ton of. But it actually used to be kind of the opposite, where instead of having like your big brand names coming out in the holidays, you had all of your other, maybe lesser known names come out during the holidays. This is a trend that started back in 1947 with a Bob Hope and Bing Crosby film that got released on Christmas Day. It was Road to Rio. And what the studios found of that title, and then why they started pushing out more titles out in the holidays the following years, is, with movies and now with some other forms of media, everything is always judged on its opening week or opening weekend.
Which I always find so weird considering how much more money they make over time.
That's the thing. You always make more money in the long tail if you market it correctly, but half the time production companies will essentially get out like a short-term loan that they hope to pay off with minimum interest the week after the movie comes out, essentially.
Okay. Because it's always like the first week, and that's why it was so much of a bummer when certain movies would come out, Dread, and not do a lot of money, but then people picked up on it later.
Yeah.
And then it started making money and stuff, and then it's like, well, too late. It didn't do well that weekend. There's a lot of movies that did that. I've been hearing rumors, and I have no idea if this is true, that they are going forward with the sequel to Dread.
I've heard that as well,
but I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I don't know how much they're able to approve in financing for it. It may be a straight to DVD event.
It might be. Well, I know the original guy who made or footed the bill for the original movie he was independently wealthy. He was like a son of a so I think he just used his own money to make it. So it could be that scenario again. But again, it would be who would distribute it. And that would be, like you said, it might be straight to DVD, which I'm totally fine with, as long as they get to see one.
Right. That's also, speaking of James Cameron making so much money, the rumors that you might be getting a Alita Battle Angel 2.
Really?
Yeah.
I was surprised when I saw that, knowing how long that manga is.
Oh yeah.
And my God, is it long? I can see them maybe doing the first story arc, and they did technically in the film.
Yeah.
I almost think he shouldn't have put that sort of cliffhanger ending where she looks up in the sky and sees the guy up there looking down. It's like, okay, maybe you should have just ended it just in case. But he put that. Would I like to see a sequel? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Man,
but Alita's a weird case because it had a lukewarm first week, but enough people came into the second week that it still was in that window, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. It did come in, and I mean, I really liked it. But again, you'd have to pick and choose what story you want to cover. Because I mean, if you're going to cover the whole thing, what is that, like 20 movies?
Exactly. Yeah,
I think it would be ungodly amount of.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you pretty much just handle eyes, the Mr. Eyeballs.
Yeah. Because eventually goes into space and different planets and there's different. Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. I'd be curious to see one. It's so hard to adapt anime sometimes because of how big the storylines are. I mean, I know they want to do an Evangelion movie. Peter Jackson was attached to it for the longest time, and even when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if that's gonna work. I mean, I remember Daniel Radcliffe at one time was going to play like an American version of Shinji, and it just
I don't know about that. I know we still have in theory, it's still in pre-production, but we do have a Metal Gear Solid movie with a lead, a writer, and a director all attached to it.
Motor Solid?
Metal Gear Solid.
Supposedly
Oscar Isaac is still on contract to play Solid Snake.
I could see him doing it. I could see, and the funny thing is if they just stick to the first like Solid Snake, which is Metal Gear Solid, like technically not the first game. I think it was the third game.
Yeah, because he had Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, if they just do Metal Gear Solid, that would be awesome. And then you could just stick with that. And if it succeeds, you can make more if you wanted to.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, so
yeah, I heard someone say that the theory would be they would be doing a standalone story between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, following just Snake and Raiden in a very self-contained story about philanthropy destroying a Metal Gear rogue built somewhere else. Which you can
see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'd probably be a lot easier to pull off.
Yeah. I could. There's so many cutscenes and stuff. I can see them. I don't know. I think Metal Gear could work as a movie, but of course, the one thing you will miss from it is a little bit of the humor and stuff you always put in, the goofy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Just get like random pinups posted at a point.
Yeah.
Have a guy crapping himself in a.
It's funny. I think Metal Gear, because I know Kojima always wanted to be a filmmaker. That's what he originally wanted to be, and so that's why his games are so story and cinematically intensive because of that.
Yeah.
But he did create, did a good job of breaking the fourth wall and doing stuff with the game. Like even in the second one, when basically they kind of said like your PlayStation 2 is the one controlling you, and just like all this crazy, I don't know if they could do that in the movie, but I'd be curious to see them try.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he knew for sure he'd put in some commentary in there about consumerism. You're here in a theater.
Because Metal Gear is such a, I mean, it's it's a military espionage spy, but there's so much commentary he puts in about things.
Everything,
I'd be curious. I mean, is he gonna bring back the mullet? I mean, he has to have the mullet.
The mullet, the mullet and the headband,
I've been hearing rumors that Kurt Russell's coming back for a third Escape from the.
A third Escape, yes. Which I mean, you know what? I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. The only thing that's kind of, and I can understand why John Carpenter is not directing it, which I can understand why. I think he retired from directing a while ago.
Yeah, John Carpenter is enjoying a well-earned retirement.
Yeah, he's done so many movies. But I know when they were going to do Escape from New York, they're going to remake it, and Kurt Russell got irritated, mad, because it's like, no, me and John put a lot of work into that Snake Plissken, and I can understand that. I don't know. I'd be curious to see it. I'd be curious to see if he's going to play Snake Plissken or Yeah.
It'd be kind of funny
Kurt
if they.
Russell's not young. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got to be pushing 70 now.
And it'd be interesting if life imitated art for a second there, because Metal Gear famously based off of Escape from New York and Escape from LA. So then it'd be interesting if then they copy Metal Gear Solid 4 and have him be old Snake.
That's why I thought. Well, apparently I read somewhere that there was supposed to be a third one. So there was supposed to be Escape from New York, obviously, and then years later they made Escape from LA, which no one likes, but I actually likes. I love the ending to it. It was very Snake Plissken what he did at the ending.
It definitely has it has moments, but there's
goofy.
There's some goofy in there that was beyond. I mean, the surfing scene is just that's all you need.
It was just. I remember they asked John Carpenter why this sort of tone change, because the first one was pretty serious, and he was like, well, Snake Plissken's such a cool, calm, collect character. Idea was just thinking of all this crazy stuff and shoving him in there and seeing how this character would react to like surfing or the plastic surgery. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that. Yeah. Like, you just have this cool, calm, collect character who's just reacting to the absurdity of social. And how could you not do an Escape from LA without talking about the absurdity of LA social culture? I mean, there is an absurdity to it. But the third one was supposed to be Escape from Earth, I read. Which made sense after the second one because of what the Earth had become. Be curious to see. That's all I heard. I think it was like, I don't know if there was a fourth one, but it was supposed to be him getting off the planet. I'm like, oh, that would have been cool.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what they're gonna do for the third one. And that's what I was wondering. Like, are they gonna go with the planned third one or just something new? I think it's supposed to be kind of maybe a remake or a sequel. I don't know what it is. It's done by the guys who did, I don't know, directed some horror movie, which never. Look, I like horror movies too, but every time they say like this movie's rebooted, and what did these guys do? Like some Chucky movie, you're like,
right,
okay.
This is fine.
It's fine. We can do this. We can deal with this.
Yes.
Because did you watch the Hellraiser sequel?
I did. Hellraiser? Yeah.
What'd you think of it?
I actually liked it quite a bit. They were more true to they differed from the source material more than the original did, but they're more true to the heart of the source material.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I definitely felt a lot more. I mean, Clive Barker even said that it felt more like the message he wanted to convey, which is why he's writing another book now based off of that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so now he's writing one about the new Hell Priest, and he's calling her Hell Queen. So she might get if they create a sequel to this one, she might get renamed to Hell Queen because he's creating a new character based off this Hell Priest.
Yeah. I did like the different formations of the box. I thought that was interesting how it would go through different and they brought in the god. I love the way they did the Cenobites. I thought the idea, the fact that their skin flayed was like their costume, I thought was pure genius. Because I understand the fetish, but that idea of like they're just their body, like the desecration of their bodies becoming like their sort of I don't know.
You endure so much torture that you enjoy it, and then
you enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, that was always like I thought that was really interesting how also they gave us so much more of the Xenobites, but they didn't tell us that, and they didn't show us behind the curtain. They showed us the room where the curtain is, but they left the curtain there and just showed us a guy on a plaque.
Yeah, they did, and I really liked the way that when they called him, how like the environment would alter and morph. That I thought that was really cool. There was a few things where I thought they overcomplicated it a little bit, but nothing big. The guy in the house, I did like the simplicity of the first story where it was more the guy just he was the ultimate thrill seeker and he found the box. Yeah, and like, be careful what you wish for. And then the box went back to the fair where he found it. I like the simplicity of that, but I did like the stuff they added to this. Wasn't like, I don't think anything could replace the original as far as just like the classic, but out of all the ones that I've seen, it's like, well, this one has some cool ideas. I did like the idea of like calling down this sort of god. And then you can like, and then what's your pleasure? But it's always like, be careful what you wish for again,
exactly. I mean, they definitely hit him a lot, but I like it more than the third one for sure.
It did make me squirm when he had that contraption in his chest and it kept spinning the nerves. I'm like, oh man! I was like, every time because I knew what they were trying to instill, and I'm like, okay, that's the first time in a horror movie where I've squirmed a little bit every time that thing would move. I'm like, okay, I know what that thing's doing. That's crazy.
I had that moment where that one guy, they had one dude was in the basement while they were having their confrontation up in the top room.
Yeah.
And the one Cenobite that had the piano wire. I don't know if they have a name for her yet, but yeah, and he ended up getting degloved.
Yeah.
The girl I was with would just immediately was like, nope, I'm not, nope.
Yeah. Yeah, they did some. One guy actually said that I think they could have pushed more of the gore, and I'm like, no, I think they did a good job with what they had.
Because I mean, that's the thing about like, because if your horror movie becomes all about gore, then it's a whole other thing. But if a horror movie tries to have a story, then the gore needs to complement it, not override it. And I feel like they did a job of managing that.
The lady who played the Pinhead of the Hell Priest did a good job. I liked her a lot. I was surprised that they killed one of the Cenobites when she was trapped behind the cage. I think what it was like, she had the box.
Yeah.
Cut him. What did you? Just had to go ahead. I
think it's kind of interesting that the idea of hell being so stringent on their rules, like, you made the deal, you abide by it. That's your gift and your punishment. So the idea is like, well, all right, that's a way around the deal.
Yeah,
like, these are the rules, and you use them.
Right, because he was trying to get the, don't kill me, and it's not the Cenobite. You think, oh no, but it was like, no, okay, that was
the rule.
twist.
Yeah.
Did you like the idea of the box cutting somebody? Because that was never in the original. The box
I thought that was interesting. I think now it makes sense because there's no. I mean, there is kind of a slight mystery to the box still that's new, which is just the formations. But everyone knows that the box is bad, don't touch.
Right. The people figure that out.
Yeah, so making that very clear from the get-go, being like, no, box, roll bad. Please do not touch.
Yeah.
I feel like it's I don't know if it added anything, but I don't feel like it subtracted anything either.
No, I don't know if it added anything. It felt a little horricky, gimmicky, but then again, it was that sort of like marking the person to be visible. I'm like, oh, okay, I can see that. But I remember I was researching the original. It was funny. I was reading that the guy who made the original Hellraiser box, the prop for the movie, apparently was very fragile. I don't know what it was made of. I can't remember, but it was so fragile that when they did a lot of the scenes with him holding the box, he would be underneath out of the camera, ready to catch it in case they dropped it. Which I thought was hilarious. Like, his guy was like, "Don't touch,"
Yeah.
I know there were some. They had different configurations. And I think they made a few out of wood. With the ones that like moved, like they have certain ones that would move that would look like it was combining. Now with computers, they were able to do some pretty cool transformations of the box.
Yeah,
which I thought was cool. I'd be curious if Clive Barker's writing a sequel to the Hellbound Heart. I'd be curious if he's going to put the box in there because it was never in the original story. That was just.
I don't know if it is. I think it may be just about more or less a haunting by Hell Queen. I don't know if they'll put the box in. He might because it's so iconic, or might allude to it. I'd imagine.
Because
like might put in like an Easter egg for it, but I don't know. I
remember there was like a guy who turned his GameCube into the Hellraiser box. I thought that was great. I was like, after I saw that, I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought.
Right.
I know. Some people do some impressive stuff.
All right. We got very far afield.
Yeah.
That's the Tuesday show. We have a subject and then we deviate, and that's our pattern. Anyway, so yeah, we had that. The Bob Hope and Bing Crosby came out in Christmas. They found out that by giving movies a time period beyond the initial week, you can actually coax more moviegoers to go. So it ended up becoming this pattern where if you had a movie that you scheduled coming on Christmas, you could get an extended notice period on your loan and things like that. Because they knew that people are off work, people are off school, you're going to get more people to come to the movies or to eventually play your game once that became part of the zeitgeist. And
didn't Jaws start the summer blockbuster? Wasn't that the one that really started that one?
Yeah, and so that ended up becoming a thing, and so movies started shifting more into spring and summer, and then Jaws happened, and so you got your big blockbuster movies in summer, and then everything else that was medium name came out in the holidays, which is why for like the 90s and mid 2000s, the holidays felt like they're just packed with games and movies, and there's something coming out every week, is because everyone wanted to get a extended cycle on their property.
Oh, go ahead.
And now recently it's kind of flip flopped again, where we're in the weird transition period with Disney owning Marvel and Star Wars and releasing those big names in the holidays, because Disney was also releasing their mid-budget, famous for releasing mid-budget animations during the holidays.
Well, they're releasing Avatar. I mean, Disney owns, I think, is distributor. I mean, Cameron, I think, owns Avatar, but I think Disney's the distributor of it.
Yeah, I believe they're technically in partnership, because they have essentially, it's like where he has creative rights, but they have design rights, so they can. That's how they're able to create Avatar World and stuff. Is they like, we can use the design, we just can't create a new story without him first.
Yeah, well, I would never imagine Cameron has no reason to ever sell that.
Yeah, no, he's holding on to the story rights for as long as he lives.
Yeah, and I remember I read somewhere that it was a Warner Brothers executive, it was a movie, or some executive, was probably Disney, whatever, came in and asked him if he could shorten the time. And he basically told him to go away.
Yeah,
and more vulgar. But I mean, he's up there with that. Those rare directors that just could do whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And he usually is he's just a fantastic storyteller. So every time I underestimate Cameron, he comes back and teaches me not to.
Right.
So, there's one of the, I mean, because I was thinking, like, he needs 3 times the money to break even with this movie. But Avatar, I think, is one of the I think Endgame beat it for a while, and then Avatar's re-release, I think now it beat Endgame again. I don't know, something.
Yeah, they're up there, they can make. But they need to. This essentially needs to become the highest grossing film of all time in order to break even by like a mile. So,
which surprises me, because so much of it is digital. I would think that would lower the cost and raise the cost.
It's because it's such high fidelity visual, and it's so much digital that essentially you're paying what would take a VFX artist a couple months to create and then throw up in the background and film everything on there. Instead, they're having to render everything individually. So they probably shot it all within like 3 months, and then took 5 years just to develop the CGI around it.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, I know it looks pretty, and even the old Avatar looks good. I didn't see. Did you see the re-release? Because he re-released it. It was supposed to be, he upped the graphics, or I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard. Like, it literally, they do remake a video game, so like, we do better graphics. They actually did that with the new Avatar, I think, or it was in 4K or something.
Okay.
It was something, because I remember Kevin, now it looks better than ever, and I'm like, okay. But yeah, he's I'd be curious. This one's over 3 hours long, they said.
Yeah. It'll be I'll probably go see it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see it. It's just, he said, depending on how well this does, he'll decide whether he wants to make 4 and 5. And I'm like, so there's a 3 already made then.
Yeah.
Like 3's already made. I can't take it.
I know he had plans for 5. He had plans for 5, but a commitment for 3, I think, was what he came out with originally. Was that regardless, 3 movies are happening. If they all do well, he'll go up to 5. But
yeah. Well, they're supposed to be generational, and you could already. Oh, sorry. 1 second.
Sure.
But yeah, he it's supposed to be generational. So I would assume by the 5th movie, either the main actors would be out of it, because I think it's supposed to be the kids grow up and then they have kids. And I remember him talking about that.
Because this one is, I believe, it's the parents are still in it, but it's focusing on the kid,
right?
The son, who's a teenager now.
Of one of the parents are going to die.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, because I remember, like, after that movie came out, you saw a few movies of the guy who played Jake Sully. I can't remember the actor's name. And then you didn't see him for a while. I'm like, well, what happened to the guy? He's filming Avatar.
Yep.
Like I was like, oh, that's right. There's a lot of people like, oh, they're filming Avatar. Sigourney Weaver's back in it too.
Yes.
Which it seems like from the trailers that they're going to find some way to put her into an Avatar body. That's my guess.
Right.
So, which I could totally see it the way that film works. Like I said, yeah, I'm curious to see it. I mean, usually he's always a good storyteller.
Yeah.
So every time I underestimated him, I'm like, okay, I really like these. So, be curious to see how he does with this. but it's been. I think the last Cameron movie was Avatar. The last Avatar. I think that's all he's doing. He
Uh,
doesn't need to make a
he
lot
did
of
Alita.
movies.
Alita was his thing. He was also
Yeah.
director
Well,
on
what
that.
he didn't direct it.
He did. He co-directed.
Oh, really? Because I thought Rodriguez directed that one.
Let's see. I think just
Robert,
for. Oh, well, yeah, it was Rodriguez,
Robert
but
Rodriguez.
he wrote it and consulted on it. So
Okay, yeah. No,
which
he
means
did that with.
which means that he co-directed.
Yeah. Same thing with the new that Terminator Dark Fate.
Yeah.
I know he did a lot with that.
Yeah.
Which I know everyone was bummed that John Connor. The one thing I never got from that was like everyone was so butthurt that John Connor died at the beginning. And I'm getting away. Spoilers been out forever. So
I don't feel like John Carpenter really did much of anything in any of the other movies.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So when they killed him, I didn't care. And I'm also like, if you guys are so butthurt, remember you're dealing with a movie about time travel.
Yeah.
If you stick with it, they could have just came back in time and saved John. I mean, it was like I'm like, dude. But people were just so upset they walked out. I'm like, dude, you could have just waited.
Right.
I'm sure they would have found a way to save him.
I mean, even that, maybe they could be pulling a Star Wars, right? Where Anakin is the child of prophecy, but he brings balance to force by having Luke. So it's really Luke's that does it. It's like Sarah Connor is a cool character. So maybe John Connor saves humanity by motivating Sarah to destroy Skynet.
Well, the funny thing is I would argue that Darth Vader was the one who brought balance to the Force. It wasn't Luke. And the only reason I say that is because he was the one that actually killed the Emperor, not Luke.
Ah, there you go. That's fair.
So that's the way I always took it, that he actually did, but Luke inherited it. The reason I like Dark Fate is I like the fact that it shifted that the key component wasn't John Connor, it was Sarah Connor, because she's the one that trained the person to save the future. So without her, I thought that was a kind of a cool shift, that it really wasn't John Connor, it was Sarah that was the key to that. I'm like, okay, that's a cool shift. I like that idea. But yeah, as far as like distribution, I mean, games come out now, but I mean, there's a few games come out, but like December is usually just a drought of like no new releases.
It is now, but for a while it was the issue because game financing was even weirder. Because games, of course, it took like months to break even. So what they found is they needed that holiday leg to get to break even at all. And so that's where you started getting your Call of Duties, your Halos, all this other stuff started releasing later in the year between Thanksgiving and Christmas, when they knew that kids and their target audience would have several weeks on end to play the game.
Yeah, that's
true. And tell their friends to go buy it. But now with things being all digital, that's also kind of flip-flopped. And same reason why movies are flip-flopping too is because now that all the big names are hogging the holiday space, your mid names can no longer release. So you're no longer getting the few big titles in summer and all the smaller titles on the holiday rush. You're now getting the few big names during the holidays trying to spend all their money on production and then recoup it over 4 weeks. And all the mid titles are having to fight it out over spring and fall, avoiding the summer blockbusters, which are also now, which are still around.
Yeah, because I mean, they even in games. Well, I think the big game most of the game releases when I was growing up started September, and the September really went through October. But the biggest ones for that year were last October, 1st November. That was usually like Call of Duty. And strange enough, I played the World War II Call of Duties. I've never played any Call of Duties as Modern Warfare or whatever. I don't know.
I've been playing the new Modern Warfare 2. I played that for an hour before the show started.
Did you? Yeah. I don't know. I'm nothing against them. I don't know. I just never.
I mean, different taste. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I was never a big first person shooter. I like third person. And I don't know why the switch in perspective is such a big deal. But like first person, I'm like, oh yeah, they're fun. You know, the original Doom's my favorite one still. But put it over the Soldier. Now I'm happy. And I have no idea why that's such a huge deal for me. I don't know. It's such a weird. Yeah. I think strangely enough, a lot of the third-person shooters sometimes have the ability to dodge stuff sometimes or jump.
Right.
And I think there's a little more interaction of just shooting or whatever. So I still think it was weird that Cyberpunk, which I played a little bit, put in first person, especially when they have so many ideas to customize and change clothes in your character. I'm like, well, then why would you take away the ability to like see your character if your idea is to dress them up? I never got that. I'm still surprised that more games don't give the option to play first or third person, just switch back and forth.
Right. That's I mean, that's also kind of like a weird thing with the new Call of Duty. My friend pulled me into a lobby last night. They have now a third person mode in multiplayer.
Okay.
Which is weird getting used to that. But yeah, it's you can play in first person lobbies or third person lobbies.
Because the thing about third person, if you pull the camera back, you can see people coming in behind you.
Right, you can peek around walls and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those that can change it, but I just always thought, because I remember when Metroid Prime came out, they had the ability to go first person to third person. The camera would pull out. I'm like, well, that's cool. People should. Not a lot of games take advantage of that sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't mind first person. Am I the only one when you play first person? Do you look down and see if you have feet?
I do. I didn't at first, and then once that started becoming more of a thing, I'll do it now. So like when I did it in Cyberpunk, I'm like, oh hey,
I have feet, right? Because always, for some odd reason, I'm always like, am I floating torso? Do I have feet?
Right.
The one I really noticed that the most was like the Halo games. Halo always put like a full character.
Yeah.
So they had feet.
Yes.
But for some odd reason, I don't know why that was important. I guess it just felt like,
some level of immersion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you rarely ever look straight down, so it's not like a huge deal breaker. But I was always wondering, did you have feet? And some you do, some you don't.
Right. So it's kind of just to illustrate the point here. So we're still in the stage where media release schedules are flip flopping. So we still have a lot of mid names coming out in December during the holiday rush. However, it's creating the holiday rush.
Yeah.
However, so many big names dominate that space that it's getting harder for them to make any money. So that's why you're seeing these begin to move more into fall or spring. So last year, for example, games wise, in November we had Halo Infinite, Battlefield 2042 release. I can't think of any other game that released, even though several games released every week in both November and December.
Well, like the first part of this year, we had Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah.
Which is a big one. That came out the first part of the year. I'm actually playing through that. And I'm like, oh, I'm playing for a while. And now I'm starting to realize how much of this game there is.
Yeah,
like I like video games, but people.
Yeah. I feel like they had that's one of those things where like they were smart and they pushed it back to to the start of the year after essentially once we entered into a new cycle. But movie wise also that year.
Yeah.
December, ones that everyone probably knows, Spider-Man No Way Home, The Matrix, and Dune all came out the same month. However, there were 3 weeks in December where over 10 movies released that week.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I was surprised they had no Avatar. Like I think it's the beginning of next year, John Wick 4 comes out.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big John Wick fan. I'm a big John Wick fan, but I hope they end it with this one. Like at least the Keanu Reeves story, because I don't know. I mean, I thought they were getting at the third one. Then the fourth one, I'm like, okay. I don't mind watching them. I just give me some sort of closure instead of another cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know they're positioning towards that. Because after this, another movie is coming out called Ballerina, which is set in the John Wick universe, but follows Ana de Armas as one of the students from the ballerina school that John Wick was associated with.
Yeah. See, I could see that. Like I like John Wick, but the universe, like, let's see like some others. I think I heard about the ballerina. I know they were going to do a TV show, but I don't know if that's still happening.
I don't know. Yeah.
I have no idea if that was. I think that was on the hotel. Well, I can't remember the name of the hotel right now.
The Continental, I believe.
Continental, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure, but I mean, yeah, I thought like you would have, because I mean, you usually have a Star Wars. Or you used to, when I was for the longest time, it was the Harry Potters during
Harry Potter, yeah. Harry Potter, Star Wars, and then maybe and then once Marvel became a thing of Marvel. But now this year it feels like everything is in Avatar, and I have not seen the trailer for anything else releasing in December.
Yeah, I mean, this Black Panther came out, but it came out in November. Which to me, I'm like, does that still? Yeah, I guess it still counts. I always think of like the big holiday movies come out literally on December, right around Christmas.
Right around Christmas, yeah. But November is technically part of it, but it's again at that point where they're pushing it further forward in November, trying to get more into like early fall, but just to get to get away from the big titles which are now dominating that window. So now they need to get 4 weeks in Thanksgiving or something, or try to, like, instead of getting 4 weeks in December to try and make their long tail, they have to get like deal with 2 weeks or whatever in November or anything like that, just to fight the way scheduling is flopped on them.
Yeah. I would I'd be curious to see how well Avatar does. I think it will do well. The funny thing is Cameron usually doesn't make many sequels to his movies. I mean, weird as it is, he made sequel to Terminator.
Yeah.
But that was the only one he made. He made the third one, which I think it was, I couldn't tell if he wanted to make a sequel or was it more like he got the rights back and then he had to maybe do something with them. I don't know. He got the rights back, and so, but he said, this one didn't do well, so I think he's kind of done with Terminator. Cameron is. He was done after 2. I mean, the second one, he said he was never going to make it to. The reason he made it to is apparently the original movie Terminator. It was supposed to be like a liquid metal, and Terminator 2 was actually supposed to be the first one, and he couldn't do it because of technology at the time. And so when technology caught up, he decided to do his original vision, which is Terminator 2, and then it just kind of ended, and it just kind of ended there. But I mean, it was so weird that he has I have like 5 avatars. I'm like, usually you don't do sequels to your movies. I mean, The Abyss, Titanic, other Cameron, he doesn't do a lot of sequels. So I'm curious to know why so many, why this huge. I'm almost curious. I mean, it's cool he's making movies, but it seems like why wouldn't he make a TV show out of this and stuff too? I don't know.
Right.
So
there. I'm just looking up other movies that are coming out in December of this year that essentially will be competing with Avatar, and it looks like we're kind of in that point where we've officially hit the flip flop, and that there's not a whole lot. You have the only possible contenders I see are really nothing. But the things that would probably are standout are as the Will Smith movie Emancipation, which mostly just because of Will Smith's drama. That's probably the reason it's getting, and The Whale, starring Brendan Fraser, which stands on its own because of it's critically acclaimed, and it's Brendan Fraser's return to acting, essentially.
Yeah, I've even heard that he would be up for doing another Mummy film.
Yeah,
so I'd be curious. I've heard about the Mummy. Those are almost, I would not say art house, but they lead more towards art house, especially the Whale, which yeah, but it's it's weird how mostly Disney. I mean, I saw Black Panther. For some odd reason, it's just me. I feel like movies are too long nowadays. Maybe I'm just getting old and stuff. But I mean, when I grew up, movies were 90 minutes, hour and a half, man. You were in and out. But now I think Black Panther was over 2 hours long. Avatar's over 3 hours long. And even I was watching Black Panther. I'm like, dude, you could have cut a lot of this out and streamlined this movie very well. And it was weird too. For 2.5 hours, like she doesn't show up to the very end as the Black Panther. I'm like, So it said Black Panther in the title, right? Did I miss that? But
I like Black Panther because it was probably the most character drama we've gotten from a Marvel thing in a long time.
It toned down the comedy strangely.
It was like, if you want just 2 hours of characters interacting and actually acting, not being overshadowed by CGI fight scenes. It's an art house movie, which is oddly enough, which is weird.
It's funny when they brought Namor out. I mean, they gave him the Green Panther. It could be worse. It could have been the Speedos.
They gave him but they did the impossible and they made the ankle wings cool.
I remember I would love to some people and I said, I don't know why nobody in the comics knows why his ankle wings when he lives in the ocean. You think he would have little flippers instead of ankle wings? Even in the comics, I'm like, why does he have wings if he's in the ocean? What does that?
Yeah, but I kind of lead it it's for him to, because he can exist in both worlds. Is for him to be able to hover above the ocean.
Yeah, and those things. I mean, you look at those wings in the movie, man. They were working for their life, man.
I know. It's like when he actually made him dart around and fight super fast as an aerial fighter.
Yeah, they almost approach the idea of a hummingbird that he could just kind of zip along.
So that's what made them cool. And then And then Shuri got to do what everyone wanted to do in the comics and actually just rip one off of him.
That was. I thought that was hilarious. Like nothing would hurt her, but they rip off one of his little wings. It's like ow. So I was like, okay. I know there was a few things. I have to turn my brain off more because when she got impaled.
Oh yeah.
And then still walking. I'm like, I don't think that's possible, but I know it's Marvel, so I have to just deal with it.
It's Marvel, yeah. Character's gonna be, yeah.
I'm just like, well, she'd be dead in minutes. Like, yeah, the suit covered the wound. That's not really gonna help it.
Yeah. My thought was my thought was maybe because it's a synthetic heart-shaped herb. Maybe it's like nanomachines.
Because she came out of there, and I'm like looking where that wound is. I'm like, well, that probably went right through her liver and spine. And she's like, just walk it off. Just walk it off. You're good, man.
Exactly.
Wow.
I thought it was like maybe it's like Iron Man's nanomachines, and they start clotting immediately because it's
clotting and rebuilding it or whatever.
But yeah,
the Ironheart stuff was pretty cool. Again, I always find it weird that again in some movies like she's a super genius. Like, well, what is she making? She's making a suit that can shoot things. Wouldn't super geniuses be making ways to like solve the plastic problem in the ocean or world hunger or things like, I mean, again, it's like I made a suit that shoots a bolt, and I'm like, okay, it's Marvel, so you go with it. But I'm like, this is your big claim to fame.
I mean, we also I think you have to consider also the Marvel universe. Like, I think microplastics kind of got overshadowed by the snapping.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we need to deal with this.
I still, again, to this day, when I talk about Marvel Universe, I'm like, if they have that level, like, nanites to do, like, their suit or whatever, the world wouldn't look like ours. It could be completely... I mean, you could possibly use those things to build houses in seconds for, like, homeless people and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Tony Stark just needs to, like in one panel say that he solved like global warming and the plastic problem. Like, he has the money, of course.
He has the money and the technology that I mean, people say, well, that the technology is really. I'm like, dude, if he could fabricate a metal helmet out of just little nanites, imagine what else you could fabricate. I mean, you could like 3D print, like you said, houses or cars or things. I mean, it would, and you could disassemble things too. I mean, say you wanted to take down a house or a car, you could disassemble it into like it's basically atom components and like save on waste, and you could use those things to take destroy garbage or turn garbage into a fuel source or something. I mean, there's like a million and one things you can do with that, except make your helmet come on and off your head.
Right.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, it'd be cool if they showed that, but again, I mean, it's focused on the superheroes, so I get it.
Yeah. Speaking of superheroes, the one good part of the Black Widow movie, David Arbor. Besides Black Widow, the only movie that is coming out in December this year that I'm really interested in is Violent Night, starring David Arbor as Santa Claus in a. I don't explain it other than Santa Claus meets Die Hard.
I know some of my friends were talking about that one. I'm like, I didn't even know about that movie.
Yeah,
and then they showed the Iron. Let me ask you this question because I can't remember. I've read a few comics with Kang the Conqueror in it. Now, did Kang the Conqueror, was he human? I thought that purple face and stuff was his actual skin.
He was Egyptian for the most part as Ramatut, and then once he conquered an alternate dimension, he took essentially their helmet and designs and made one to cover his own face.
Okay, so he's human underneath that.
Yeah.
Okay, because in the movie they took it off as an African American guy playing the character. Like, I thought he was supposed to be more blue, purple, or alien. So it really is a mask that comes.
Yeah, originally was.
Okay, then that makes sense.
Yeah, originally he's Ramatut, and what I'm interested in, I'm hoping they don't make him some minor guy. I'm hoping they actually build him up as a bigger threat in the long run. I don't know if they want to go make him the big guy for the whole event like arc, but I'd be down. But Kang the Conqueror is the one Marvel villain who is truly one. There was he fully conquered Earth 616, forced all the Avengers off the planet, and then at one point decided, like, "No, you guys have it back. Okay, I'm gone. I'm gone."
Well, the one thing I loved about Kang the Conqueror was that it was all a game.
Yeah,
it was just a game to see if you can conquer it, and that's what I liked him. He wasn't evil per se; he was just. It was all like, could he outwit these guys?
Yeah.
And I love the fact when he would draw the armies from other dimensions and other timelines. That was they could do some really cool stuff with him if they do it right. I was excited using Kang the Conqueror. I have you. You screwed up Thanos beyond my forgiveness. I'm sorry. I mean, there's stuff you did in the Thanos character. I'm like, you can't make Thanos without having to be the mad god who loves death. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's just that was my favorite part of him. So Thanos, I'm curious. I mean, come on. There's nothing that you really need to change. I did not like the Thanos. I thought he visually looked cool, but I did not like him trying to save the universe. Like, that's not Thanos. He's in love with death, and that was my favorite part. He was the mad god. So I did not like that. I'm sorry, internets, I just didn't. I still, after I have never watched the last two Avengers Endgame and stuff. I saw them in the theaters, and that was it.
Right.
But Kang I like even more.
Yeah.
So if they mess this up, then maybe no coming back for me for this one. I really like him.
Yeah.
They destroyed Ultron. They made him into like this sarcastic. I mean, he was supposed to be. I remember I think it was in one of the ones George Perez did, where Ultron literally killed a third world nation just to get the Avengers' attention. That was like, I mean, that's how much of a
yes. They kind of went straight for Pemtron, because that's where Ultron got very snarky, is when he absorbed Hank Pym's
yeah.
It's like I'm hoping they from what I gather from the trailers, it sounds like they are treating him as just like he's the conqueror for sport, because they have that one line where he's talking to Scott Lang and he's like, "Are you an Avenger? Did I kill you?" And then in the other trailer, I get the idea where he's essentially creating like the rules for a game. Is like, "Hey, I'm going to give you all this time to do this, but you got to do this. These are the rules, all right?" This is how I conquer you by creating a rule set and beating you on the board.
Because there's nothing offensive about that. Yeah. I still, to this day, don't really, out of all the stuff they've brought into the Marvel Universe, I never really understood why they took away the whole Thanos loves death and killed half the universe to get her attention. I mean, because they brought some pretty dark stuff into the Marvel Universe. I was never sure why that was too dark.
Honestly, I don't think it's too dark. I think they thought it was too weird before they brought in Celestials. But I think honestly,
I know.
But I think honestly, his death probably would have sold better than Celestials did.
Yeah, I think it was just the idea of like he's in love with. I mean, they brought the Celestials and the gods in. I mean, it was just like he wanted to impress Death. So what better way to impress Death than kill half the universe to get her? And it was, and I mean, and that's what was just the one thing. I remember reading one of the fights the Avengers had with Thanos in one of the books, and I think it was the main Infinity Wars. And I always liked the idea that he was just like, as the Avengers were coming at him, he was like changing them into like butterflies or warping reality. I mean, he was just like, for them to get him, he would like destroy the reality or turn him into something else where they get him and touch him. And I always thought that was cool. They didn't do that in the movie. I mean, they actually able to punch him or whatever. But in the original book, it was like this guy literally, these like, imagine the Avengers are trying to attack God, who could remake reality as he sees fit. He's just remaking reality around them. And I thought that was really good when they finally figured out how to get around it and stuff.
Yeah. I think I would have also liked to see Adam Warlock before that, because like that was like his whole thing was like he's the man outside of reality.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I know the people said, well, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is their own thing. I'm like, yes, I know, but there are certain things. I mean, you bring a lot of stuff over, and when certain things you don't like. To this, I understand why they didn't bring Tony Stark's alcoholism. They hinted at it, but they never brought it over full fledged. And I always thought that was kind of a little bit of a detriment to his character, because it was such an integral part of his character in the comics that he struggled with that. I don't know. It's funny as far as games. Now, as far as release timelines and stuff, do you see that in comics? Is there like, I know summer is usually the crossover event for comics, but December, and I don't remember huge things. I'm trying to remember like big time frames where like a lot of big comics come out.
Usually it's always like the backups. Like if they're doing like a big summer thing, like they do Countdown to Armageddon during the summer, but they don't want to wait until the next year, or there is something scheduled for next year, then they did Armageddon in November or whatever, where like essentially if they're trying to pack in two big events before they go into another one, they'll pack it into the same year. But December is always the follow-up, like if it's the backup if they need it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I still go in the comics and like mostly buy graphic novels. I don't buy a lot of single issues, here and there every once in a while. But I usually pick and choose what looks interesting. So I haven't followed a series in a long time. Like I know of series. Like I bought when I saw the collected edition of Luther Strode. I bought that because I'd heard
yeah,
about it. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a shot, because I like the artwork, the
yeah.
gentleman who does the art and that. So there's certain ones where like I hear them later. I'm like, oh, they have a collected version, then buy that and read it. But it's been a long time since I followed. Do you follow do you buy floppy still? You mostly just buy graphic
I must
novels.
buy graphic novels and collected. The only two things that I'm following right now, and I have to follow them digitally because uh, just availability of my shop, is X-Men and Department of Truth.
Department of Truth, that's an Image book, isn't it?
It's an Image book, yeah, by James
Yeah.
Tynion, and it's super fun. The art is super weird. The concept is fantastic. Essentially, it's liminal space. Mass belief brings things into reality. So when people start mass believing all this weird stuff like lizard people or whatever, then they start coming into reality. So the Department of Truth are the men in black who actually have to say no, these don't exist. Calm down, and they have to go kill lizard men inside these liminal spaces that are outside reality. So they did one they did one with the Denver airport where there's that whole weird thing of the Denver airport housing this Freemason facility or whatever. Yeah. And so the guys had to go well, this doesn't exist space, so we have to think it exists here, and the door appears. Okay, now we can go deal with this.
Because I know that. I mean, I remember the terms of those is called tulpas.
Yeah, tulpas.
Yeah. Which I always thought. I mean, they've hinted at in other horror shows, but it's kind of cool that they, actually manifest and have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. I try to read some of the newer comics, like superhero stuff, but I can't get into the funny thing is I need to go to the library. I buy comics, but sometimes when I go to the library, that's when I'll pick up superhero books because I'm like, oh, okay. Usually they're months behind what's currently happening. That's how I find out about a lot of the superhero stuff here and there, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of times in the library, I just pick up a huge stack and read through them.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in a long time because I actually been buying comics I keep buying more. I found one called Murata the She-Devil, which was like this Claremont book written in '82.
Okay.
And I think it was Jim Bolton. I think was the artist, but it's like definitely it's like a Conan the Barbarian type, but with a woman, almost like a Shauna the Red Sonja type thing. But it was really well illustrated, and it only lasted I bought one paperback I saw at a store for $10 and read it and really liked it, and I was like, was there any more? And I looked up, and there was a hardback that had 2 other stories in it, and I got that one to have it all, but it didn't last that long. But I've been finding some old stuff here and there. I'm always I think my comic shop owners don't like when I go in the store because I'll just spend an hour wandering around and sometimes buy nothing and sometimes buy a bunch. It depends on what I find or with that. I know I still want to read The Last Ronin. And before I do that, the Ninja Turtles had a storyline called the City at War, and I think it was like volume 4 and 5. And then after that, I think then that was the last of the original Mirage, and I think The Last Ronin follows directly from that storyline. I never read it, so I want to go back and read it. I heard a lot of people say it was really well done. I just never read it. So,
speaking of holiday releases, this just out. Or no, not out, just recently updated. We do have a tentative release date for Dune 2, November 17th of next year. Yeah.
That fast? I thought.
Yeah, because I believe they started filming pretty much immediately after the first one came out.
Well, yeah, kind of like Lord of the Rings. I mean, why? Yeah. Like Lord of the Rings, I think most of those was filmed generally at the same time because you have everything set up and everything done. You might as well instead of tearing it down and coming back.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to go straight into the war, the Messiah War, but Dave Bautista said that Beast Robin is going to have an even bigger part, so he might be going into the Messiah War.
Do you think that movie would be 2 movies or 3 movies?
I don't know. I feel like cutting into 2 is the right call, and then if you want to do a third, maybe going into God Emperor, because God Emperor is a lot shorter.
Yeah,
but
because I was even that I'm like 2. I'm like, because in fact I was surprised at that new God of War game, the second I thought the second game that came out for Ragnarok was the middle of the story. And like, no, this ends that story.
Yeah.
So you got Ragnarok 1 and 2. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Because usually they didn't want to drag it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the original God of War was like, I think 3 games, but there were a ton of spin-offs. There was like, I think God of War extension, and then
there's a ton for PSP, and
yeah. And so, but the main storyline I think you could generally follow was 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And then they had a bunch of side ones. I would still love it. Did you ever play the new God of War games at all?
I have not yet. They're on Steam, and
They're what?
I have not. They're on Steam, but they get discounted every now and then, so I should. But I still have to beat Rising of Vengeance. I have not put time for a single player game in a while.
Oh, you're talking about that fun with the last boss on that one. That game came to like the end was like almost like a game branch. I beat it, but eventually it's like, wow, okay. Revengeance, that's been a while. Yeah, what else? I finished. I played Eternal. And I got pretty far into it, and then I realized they're repeating the same levels later in the game, but with new foliage. And I was like, no, I didn't buy a PlayStation 5 so you can repeat stuff later on. Like, I mean, I want new stuff. I just watched it in that game and returned it. What other game did I play? But then I started, and then I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I played the first one over again that way because I didn't remember any of the storyline from the first one. And the second one is good. Apparently they want to make a third one, but this got kind of mixed reviews, this one. So
this has been our normal hour now. We have talked about why things have been scheduled in the holidays in the past, but now are kind of spread out more over as schedules flip flop, and several other things as well. But we'll be getting ready to sign off here. Aaron, do you have anything coming up or anything you need to promote before we say goodnight to the LV audience?
No, I might. I know I've been doing some artwork for a new character called Noct the Barbarian, which you've seen some pictures and stuff. I did write a single issue, so I want to start working on that. And I want to make it so each issue is its own story. So there's no like issue 2 for it. You can buy any issue separately. That's the only thing I know. And I'm still working on the 3rd issue, The Obsoletes, which I started.
Very cool. So. I can confirm now that Soul Ascendant is being worked on. It's being arted, so we are getting our Roman space opera.
That's right.
Yeah. Only thing that I have immediately coming out that I need to shout out is this Sunday I am back in the Halo competitive circuit, and I'm competing in the Pepper Open, sponsored by Skull Candy. So if anyone watches competitive video games, I will be competing in esports this Sunday. So
nice.
Like the gaming station and Skull Candy should be hosting the finals or whatever if I end up making it into there, which I don't know if I will, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. So cool.
All right. Okay. Well, this weekend we have been That's a Fun Show on Tuesday. Be sure to check out the Wednesday and Sunday show, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will be back next week talking about reaching out to publishers or how you get publishers and others to see your comics, essentially, or get your stuff in front of their eyes. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in pitching their comic, if you've written something or have drawn something or collaborated and haven't yet and want to go through a traditional publisher and haven't been able to figure out how to get their eyes on it, that's what we'll be talking about.
I'll be here for that one. That'd be cool. I should be here.
Okay. So. Well, we'll end our show there then.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Until that time, make mine Silverline.
Hey, I'm Pat Broderick. Make mine Silverline.